I have literally had clients come to me who have used EFS Pro because they're like scratching it, trying to figure out what can keep them from bonking, and so they buy the expensive thing. And they come to me and they're like, "Man, I'm using EFS Pro, but I just can't. I just still am fading. Like, help me." And I'm like, "Sugar."
Hey, welcome to Saturday. Today we are going to review First Endurance EFS Pro Hydration Drink Mix. This is the sour watermelon flavor. So this company was founded by Mike Fogarty and Robert Kunz. Hopefully I got those names right. They worked together in a bodybuilding supplement company. I don't know if that was a GNC or some other related company, but they decided that they wanted to create something for athletes like them, and they participated in triathlon and Nordic skiing and I believe cycling as well. So this is how First Endurance was born. Where you can hold it's like the talking, what are they, the talking pillow or something?
Yeah, the $55 talking tub. This company strikes me as somebody, as being founded by somebody who maybe did work in the protein industry, because the pricing is more in alignment with protein than it is with carbohydrate. Protein is usually like $10 a pound or something like that. That's about where we're at with this. No, actually, oh my god, more than that. Holy cow. This is 1.63 pounds. Holy cow. It's more. They have priced carbohydrates more expensive than protein. That's incredible, because carbohydrates cost about 1/10 of the amount of protein to make.
I agree. This really reminds me of our sprinting and pre-workout days, sprinting and lifting pre-workout days. It reminds me of something that I would see in a GNC. I mean, the ingredient list kind of looks like that, and it's designed like that, and their website has a lot of products that
are supplementy.
They would attract bodybuilders, let's just say. They attract
people who would like to spend money on products at the bleeding edge of what works, and there's a couple bleeding edges here. There's the like extreme ideas that don't work, extreme ideas that do work and are banned, and there's like this in between that feels like where this is at.
But doesn't this remind you of like when we would take pre-workout before we started taking beetroot, we used pre-workout. It's like something you would find next to the creatine.
I'm sure the scoop size is about the same as that. They have a 30-gram serving. One serving is 30 grams, and it takes 3 scoops to get there, which means there's a little baby scoop. Which tells me one other thing about this product. This is one of those products that doesn't actually want you to know how much carbohydrate per hour you should be taking, because you then wouldn't spend the money on their product to get there, because you would just break the bank doing it.
We'll get to this in a minute, but it does seem like the instructions for use are way different than any other endurance product. It really is like a weightlifter or bodybuilder or a strength and power athlete's product designed for endurance athletes. So it does feel a little bit off in a way. It feels like a supplement. It doesn't feel like fuel and hydration designed to fuel. Yeah, it doesn't feel like something to fuel your body. It feels like
you want to pay for the best and you're okay with living on the edge.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It feels like a person who is open to bending the rules is what it reminds me of. I'm not saying that's what this is at all. It's just the website reminds me of that market.
It's like the super premium product that is at the cutting edge of, like, yeah, it's almost on the banned substance list, but it's not. And there's no banned substances in this. That's not what we're saying.
There's not, no.
But it's for that, like, you will pay for all the way up to the line. That if you're that person, that's who this is marketed to. Let's find out if it's actually good for you and actually will enhance your performance. First and foremost, 3 scoops for 30 grams of carbohydrates. That's like red flag number 1. If I'm going to be like pushing the bleeding edge of performance, I'm going to need 90 to like 140 grams of carbs per hour. So that's 9 to 14 scoops per hour. That's a lot of scooping. My first request, EFS Pro, is could you please put in a bigger scoop that's more realistic? Anybody who's paying $54 a jug for a tiny little jug like this is going to be wanting to use more than 30 grams of carbs per hour.
It's also interesting too that they made the carbohydrates per scoop so small, and it almost seems like, it feels like to me that they thought that was acceptable, because a lot of bodybuilding or weightlifting products have a lot less carbs relative to the protein, depending on what sport you're training for, depending on if you're training for weightlifting or powerlifting versus bodybuilding, and depending on what phase of training you're in. Sometimes these weightlifters and bodybuilders will train with pretty low carb, especially the bodybuilders when they're getting close to a show. It just, again, it reminds me of one of those bodybuilding products where it's totally acceptable to have 30 grams of carbs for 3 scoops. That's just something you wouldn't find in a typical endurance product.
And as we'll see when we look at how they tell you to use the product, they're actually only telling you to use 60 grams per hour. That's like the gold standard recommendation in the weightlifting world, and that does work fine in the weightlifting world. You don't need 100 grams per hour.
No.
You're just not doing as much mechanical work when you lift weights.
A lot more rest, and honestly, if you're a bodybuilder nearing a show, that would be a lot of carbs for a lot of athletes. So, but for the endurance athletes, it's a totally different ball game. You need a lot more carbs than that. We have 30 grams of carbohydrates per serving. We have 10 grams of sugar, which we'll get to in a minute. We have 0 grams of protein. We have 100 milligrams of calcium. We have 50 milligrams of magnesium. We have 530 milligrams of chloride. We have 500 milligrams of sodium, 220 milligrams of potassium, and then we have L-glutamine. We have BCAA 2 to 1 to 1 as leucine, isoleucine, and valine.
That's a lot of things.
Again, we have a lot of this. Again, reminds me of a bodybuilding product. What are your thoughts on BCAAs inter-workout for endurance athletes?
BCAAs might have some benefit from a cognitive performance, sort of like how your cognitive drive is during endurance performance when supplemented during training or during racing. But we're talking about might, and we're talking about really small. We're talking about, it's like the seventh or eighth thing down the list that I might include if I were going to make a super premium supplement, which is probably why they only included 250 milligrams per serving, because they also know that it's a might, and so they're just putting like a dusting in there just in case it does something, that's the appropriate amount to put in.
And I would add to that there might actually be more evidence for the benefit of BCAAs in longer endurance events versus shorter ones.
Maybe.
But again, that's a big maybe.
In first 4 ingredients are all carbohydrate sources. That's fine. But what's not fine is the first 3 of them are all sources of glucose. So we have maltodextrin, clusterdextrin, dextrose, and then sugar. When you pair that information with what we find in the nutrition facts, which is that there are 30 grams of carbs and only 10 of those come from sugar, we know that there are 20 grams of carbs coming from the first 2 ingredients, which are maltodextrin and clusterdextrin. So that's 20 grams of pure glucose, because maltodextrin and clusterdextrin are both glucose sources. Then we have the remaining 10 grams that were added from sugar, which conveniently are the 3rd and 4th ingredients, dextrose and sugar. We know that there's more dextrose than sugar, and there's only 10 grams there, so we know that there's at least 5 grams of dextrose. Add that 5 grams of glucose from dextrose to the 20 grams from maltodextrin and clusterdextrin, and you've got 25 grams of glucose, and then you have maybe up to 5 grams of sugar. 5 grams of sugar contributes another 2.5 grams of glucose, so you have 27.5 grams of glucose at a minimum, and then 2.5 grams of fructose. It's a good thing that they only recommend consuming 60 grams of this per hour, because if you did consume more than 60 grams per hour, you would end up consuming too much glucose and not enough fructose, and you'd have gut upset.
Yeah.
So if you are going to use EFS Pro as your flavoring for your beverage, I highly recommend cutting it with like 8 parts sugar, 1 part EFS Pro, or like 3 parts sugar and 1 part EFS Pro.
So it says small bottle. Mix 3 scoops with 21 to 22 ounces of water. I like how they just call it a small bottle. So a small bottle, I'm assuming, would hold, well, I don't know, but they want you to mix it with 21 to 22 ounces of water. So 3 scoops of this is, again, 30 grams of carbs, or 1 serving. They say large bottle, mix 4 scoops, 1 1/3 servings for 24 to 26 ounces of water.
A large bottle is not 24 to 26 ounces.
You don't get to fill your large bottle all the way. You just have to fill it.
Does that not bother you completely? But we can all agree a small bottle is probably, 18 to 24 ounces, and they picked a middle of the range number there, fine. But the large bottle, 24 to 26 ounces, a large bottle is 26 plus, 30 plus, 28 plus at least. 24 to 26 tells me that these people don't know real endurance.
Yeah.
And that they're trying to push everybody into like this cyclist, spandex wearing, super elitist, super pro, I don't know, what's the right word, box. Like fit into the roadie cyclist box, and it's so not cool. I hate that.
I also hate that. I really do. I very much dislike the roadies that disapprove of your 1 liter bottle. I'm sorry. I want to be hydrated. You know what? You can go just take your judgment somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll see you at hour 4.
I'll see you at hour 4. That's true, or hour 6.
Or no, I won't, because you will be behind.
Okay, so the instructions are: before, consume 1 bottle of EFS Pro 30 minutes before exercise.
It should be consumed no earlier than 20 minutes before exercise.
Yeah, and they don't actually say that you should be steadily sipping it until the start of your workout. I would have specified that.
Why wouldn't you want to consume it exactly at 30 minutes and then down it all at 30 minutes.
You mean just like 30 minutes before just guzzling?
Yeah, why would that be a problem?
I would experience rebound hypoglycemia, so that would be a problem.
Bingo.
Yeah, so if I wanted to start consuming this before my training, like if I were fasted or something, or I just was underfueled that day for some reason, I might start drinking it 20 minutes before, or even 30 minutes before is fine, but I would be steadily consuming it until I was starting my workout, so that blood sugar doesn't spike and then it crashes like right before you start. That is the worst feeling. Or it crashes slightly after you start your exercise. That's probably more likely. It feels horrible. Okay, and then it says okay, this is weird. Alternate 1 serving of EFS Pro and 1 bottle of water every 30 minutes. So it's a good thing, like you said, that there's only, what is it? 1 serving, 30 grams of carbs. Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
That is crazy. It's good that there's only 30 grams of carbs per serving, because you're basically guzzling 30, like all of your carbs, and then you're going on a carb drought and you're just pouring water in. So every 30 minutes you get like a gigantic bolus of, well, it's not even gigantic because the carb serving is small, but it would be better to spread all of this out and consume it consistently throughout your training, as the course allows, of course. But the fact that the instructions, like the optimal consumption instructions, are to down all the carbs every 30 minutes, that is very interesting.
But I think you when you think down a bottle, you're thinking like down one of your big bottles that actually has some fuel in it. Downing a 21-ounce bottle of 3 scoops of this is like, it's watered down in the first place. 30 grams of carbs in 21 ounces of water is like watered down fuel. Yeah, I don't think it would feel like a lot. I think you'd feel underfueled for that 30-minute window.
Yeah.
And then you'd feel crazy underfueled for the next 30 minutes when you're just drinking water.
That's true. It would feel like you're on the path to death. And then it's like you have like 30 grams of carbs here and you feel like, okay, maybe I can survive another like 10 to 15 minutes. And then you're on the path to death again. You're just digging a hole for yourself.
I think you're on the path to death while you're fueling with this. And
Oh,
then
for
when you
sure,
go into the
for
water,
sure.
it's like, screw the path. We're jumping off the cliff.
This would be good if I were weightlifting. And I would double this. Well, it depends on how long my weightlifting session is. Actually, I probably wouldn't double this. But this is something that I might take to the gym and add some whey protein and creatine, and I'd be set for my workout in the gym. This is not what I would use to do endurance training at all. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's just not enough.
No, and honestly, I mean, you'd have to be pretty dang rich or sponsored with this.
Let's say money's not an object. How would you use this?
How would I use this? If I only got to use this, because that's
Or how
not
would
an
you
option.
how would you modify their instructions?
Well, let's see. Depending on how hard I'm going for training that day, I would want anywhere, like if I'm biking, I might want like anywhere from like 100 to 120 grams of carbs per hour. This is almost exclusively glucose, so I don't want to get all of my carbohydrates from glucose. So I honestly might use this as mostly flavoring and maybe get 25% of my carbs from this, and then add in sugar like sucrose, because it's equal parts glucose and fructose, and use that as the primary source of carbohydrates. Per liter of water, if I use this as recommended, it would give me 46 to 48 grams of carbs per liter, mostly from glucose, and 770 to roughly 800 grams of sodium, not grams, milligrams of sodium per liter, and 338 to 354 milligrams of potassium. So there's already kind of a lot of potassium relative to sodium in here, and their carbohydrates are mostly glucose. So I would probably get 25% of my carbs relatively from this, and then 75% of my carbs from plain sugar, because it's half glucose and fructose. And then I would add sodium in as well, because there's definitely not enough sodium per liter of water if I use this as prescribed. So I would add sodium citrate to make sure I get enough sodium and to offset the ratio of sodium to potassium, because there's way too much potassium relative to sodium in this.
So basically, if you were to modify their instructions, you could do their like 1 bottle of this with 1 serving, 21 ounces every 30 minutes, and then instead of having a 30-minute bottle of water that follows, you have like an actual 30-minute bottle of fuel with like 90 grams of carbs from your sugar and sodium citrate. This is almost more like your water than the actual fuel mix. What's that bias called, where if you've invested a lot in something, you elevate the value of it in your mind?
Oh, I forget.
You know what I'm talking about. If you've bought this, you know what I'm talking about. I get it. I have spent money on expensive products. We're with you. We're helping you just take one step in a new direction. If if you are experiencing that bias where you're like, but man, I felt good, or I've had some rides where I felt good when I used this, or this is the only thing that has worked for me, just maybe try nudging it up in fuel content with some sugar. Maybe add a spritz of salt to it.
The buyer's remorse that a person might experience from buying this would be the same buyer's remorse that someone might have if they purchase like Tribulus or something. I don't know, some other bogus thing at GNC where you just think, I want this to work, you know, give me that edge, but it doesn't.
But then since you spent $50 on it, you convince yourself it does.
And you keep taking it till it's gone because you're like, I spent all this money, it has to work. Like, at least the placebo maybe will help me out.
We've all been there.
Yes, we have.
Years and years of pre-workout purchasing until I discovered caffeine pills. I feel bad reading the back of the package because I know it's going to be bad, and I just am tired of reading like marketing. It's called marketing copy. It's just chunks of text that are designed to make you believe in the science behind the product. Like most good marketing, it is gaslighting and misinformation that is trying to be literally truthful but lead you to believe something that is not actually true. So what is literally true, they probably say here, and then what's not actually true is that this whole thing is performance enhancing better than something much more simple like sugar, salt, sodium citrate. So let's read the hopefully mostly true stuff. Professional strength, endurance, and hydration. EFS Pro meets the unique requirements of discerning athletes on the hottest days in the most demanding races. Compared to traditional drink mixes, the isotonic EFS Pro formula delivers more calories, electrolytes, and essential nutrients to support physical and mental performance, so you excel when everyone else is falling apart. Okay, so actually, so actually that's not even true. I lied. I was too optimistic when I said there was truth that was designed to make you believe something. No, it's just wrong.
This would leave you on the side of the road crying, for real.
Oh,
or
for
at least
sure.
it'd leave me on the side of the road crying.
I have literally had clients come to me who have used EFS Pro because they're like scratching it, trying to figure out what can keep them from bonking, and so they buy the expensive thing. And they come to me and they're like, man, I'm using EFS Pro, but I just still am fading, like help me. And I'm like, sugar.
It makes people feel like they are the problem, you know, rather than the product, because this is so expensive and this is what the elites use. It must be me. It's like, no, this is not at all what your body needs.
But compared to traditional drink mixes, the isotonic EFS Pro formula delivers more calories. False.
That is
super false.
A straight up lie. Have they looked at any other product? They're looking at the bodybuilding stuff where it's like, oh, you get 5 grams of carbs for this workout that's going to take you 2.5 hours because you're cutting for a bodybuilding competition. It's like, this is not more calories. What are they talking about?
They say more electrolytes. Okay, so it's probably more sodium than average.
Yeah.
So that's good.
But they also have a lot of potassium in it, a lot of other stuff like calcium and magnesium and
that's the piece that is true, that is designed to make you believe something that's not true. So they say more electrolytes. Sodium, yes, more. But they also have more potassium, more calcium, and more magnesium. And the thing they want you to believe is that those electrolytes contribute to your hydration and your performance, and it doesn't. They do not.
Well, and everybody thinks that calcium's good because you grow up hearing that calcium's good, so you think, well, I must need it in this. You know, calcium's good for you. Why
it helps in muscle contraction.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just enough to be dangerous. It's like, oh, healthy bones, muscle contraction. Throw it in there. Might as well.
Give it your all the time. Mental fatigue can be just as dangerous as physical, so we formulated the new EFS Pro to support mental toughness. Patented suntheanine and L-theanine, also in EFS, and Pharmagaba, unique to EFS Pro, enhance focus, reduce anxiety, and keep you motivated so you can get the most out of every stride or pedal stroke, regardless of how deep you've already gone.
Not at those, I would argue that not at those concentrations. The BCAA concentration in there is so low that you're not going to get these amazing mental performance boosts because there's just not that many BCAAs in the product.
I think these guys might not even know that BCAAs contribute to the mental performance side of things because they don't even mention that in their mental performance game paragraph. They mention only suntheanine and Pharmagaba, which are also in there at such low concentrations, which Pharmagaba is a joke. But theanine does reduce anxiety and could help with focus if you're taking it with caffeine and you're taking enough of it, but there's only 50 milligrams in here. But maybe if you're taking 4 doses an hour.
I would say don't worry about BCAAs. If you want to deal with that, get it separately from your intra-workout carbohydrates. You shouldn't be mixing those in one product because you're not going to be getting what you need. It's going to be impossible in a premix like this to get the ratios that you would want, or it's going to be difficult at least.
No, it is impossible.
Yeah.
You're being too nice.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, the last paragraph of their marketing spiel is unparalleled innovation for unparalleled performance. EFS Pro's primary carbohydrate.
Yeah, you're going to be melting on the side of the road just like, I'm dying. I can't. I'm sorry.
is a special high glycemic branched chain cyclic cluster dextrin, CCD, that stimulates fat oxidation for energy, preserving glycogen stores so you'll have reserves to respond when others are hitting the wall. God, there's so much wrong with this, actually. CCD is also one of the lowest osmolality carbohydrate sources available, so it can be mixed at stronger concentrations and still be absorbed quickly and easily, even in the most extreme conditions. Every single one of those sentences has
Hold the phone.
misleading
Did they say
information.
that that has extra high glycemic index?
No, it said it's just a special high glycemic branch chain cyclic cluster dextrin.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is like the perfect intra-workout nutrition, and 1 is like eating straight lard and fiber, you know, intra-workout or something.
Should we just throw in some dirt in there too?
I would give this like, maybe I shouldn't say 1 is lard and fiber because nobody does that.
They're called ultra runners.
Yeah, we can get to that.
Go read ultra running. If you're an ultra runner, we're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here.
You could be so much faster. Let me tell you, so much faster.
Please don't read nutrition on ultra running forums. It's almost universally wrong.
Like peanut butter and...
I promise it's wrong. I haven't gotten traction on there yet because it's going to require a softer touch than I have to convince the ultra running community.
I know, but just
convince your friends to join us. If you run ultras and you know the truth about carbohydrate fueling and how to do it well, and you don't need to chew fiber and fat to go fast, please tell your friends.
And we understand why that happens too, because, you know, consuming nothing but liquid carbs for 24 hours or more than 24 hours is boring. We get that, but promise you, you can be faster. We will address that in future videos. Yeah, I was ranking this from 1 to 10. I might give this a 2 or 3.
I would actually give this a 5, but not using the instructions that they recommend. Triple the dosing strategy. Maybe quadruple. No, can't quadruple it because you'll get gut distress because of the glucose.
You can't.
I would say do 2.1 times the dosing strategy, 2.2 times the dosing strategy here, and it gets a 5.
Okay, but you have to think about it. You have to rank it based on how they prescribe it.
Oh, this is a recipe for hypoglycemia.
It's a recipe for hating yourself and thinking that you are the problem and that you are utterly terrible at endurance training.
You are weak and like weak-minded because they gaslight you to believe that this makes you strong and strong-minded, and then when you like are crippled on the side of the road 4 hours in,
not even 4 hours.
There's gonna be some negative self-talk.
No, 2 hours in on that. If I used it as prescribed,
I'd be cranky as.
If you're actually going,
we'd be fighting.
Oh yeah, if we were on a bike ride together or a run, we'd be.
We should try that.
No, I don't want to do that. No. Yeah, if we're going like zone 3 or like high zone 2 for 2 hours, we would be fighting if we use this.
For sure.
Yeah.
Super hypo.
Yeah, for sure. The taste is pretty good. I actually like the taste of it.
God, it has that stupid bodybuilder plastic on it.
Oh, I know. I feel like a gym bro with this product.
Oh yeah. It has just the right like gym bro flavor too.
I actually like that flavor. I mean, I do miss the shaker bottles with the whey protein and the creatine and
Blue Raz pre-workout.
I do miss the pre-workout days and the beta alanine. Like,
if you like C4, you might like this product.
Yeah, you might like that product.
Hey, I would say something like, let us know in the comments how your experience went with EFS Pro, but I feel super cheesy saying that, so we'll just see you in the comments. We comment back on everything. We'll see you soon. Until next time.